Good morning, welcome to my channel. My name is David Okon. I'm talking about the cost of living. I've been talking about the cost of living in different perspectives. This time I'm talking about the cost of living in terms of the United Kingdom. And if you watch the rest of my videos on this topic, including on this subtopic, the United Kingdom, you will discover that I have actually discussed the relevance of the United Kingdom in terms of the cost of living. And today we will be talking about the Parliament of the United Kingdom, which is at Westminster, the Palace of Westminster, and which is actually the seat of both houses of Parliament of the United Kingdom. And we have actually been looking at different dimensions of the United Kingdom. The logic of the United Kingdom being discussed is because the United Kingdom is a major player in the modern economic and political discourses of the world. And it drives Europe, especially the European Union, drives globalization. Globalization is the modern language of doing government and politics, as well as actually running the global economy. The logic surrounding globalization involves sovereignty being diminished in favor of federalism, as you are, which is actually in Africa, in every different continent, in Europe, the European Union, and the rest of Europe, America, and Asia. The globe, the world is becoming global, and that means sovereignty and national entities are actually diminishing. We are giving half our national authorities and powers in favor of global authorities and powers. And as we look at the UK Parliament, we will discover something potentially similar. But the significance of the United Kingdom also is because it drives capitalism. Capitalism means creating wealth, and creating wealth means wealth for the few and not for the many. That is how it is structured, and it is likely that only the minority will always get wealth and power. And wealth is actually the driver, or actually the essence of power, and that's why it is extremely important for those who have money and wealth to keep it and not give it away. So the idea that wealthy people are going to give money to poor people is actually impossible. Poverty, I've also explained in terms of whether or not you work for a living, as in the small and medium class, lower and middle class, or the small and medium businesses. These are actually workers in the sense that they don't have significant power to compete in the market economic system. And the cost of living is evidence of low income, and low income is evidence of poverty. It actually designate a person or a group into a certain class, the lower and the middle classes, as opposed to the upper classes. And the upper classes are the millionaires and the multimillionaires, about 5% or 10% of global population. In every country now with globalization, as you look around, the people with money are actually becoming fewer and fewer, and the richer are getting richer, the poorer are getting poorer. And that is why there is the cost of living. And it is actually also evidenced by the fact that nation state, national governments are now closing down the public sector. And the public sector, when it is closed, is a statement that public services are no longer needed. And when the government say public services are not needed, it means the government is no longer wanting to be responsible for people who cannot look after themselves. The 95%, the 90%, 95% of the global population. This scenario actually all over the world. It's global. It's important for people to know that you now need to look after yourself, because if you look at your employment is going because of technology. Technology is supposed to be a good thing to create jobs for the people of the world, but if the politics is not right, then employment is going to be, the technology is going to be a disaster, because people will be continuing to fight. And I spoke about the two sector or progress of the economy. I talked about developmental economy. I also talk of cultural economy. Developmental economy includes the wealth and technology, infrastructure, capital, and all those things. Cultural economy is actually humanitarian. How people behave, what their value system, their educational, cultural education, which is actually different from developmental education. Developmental education, you actually learn to speak English and do maths and be a scientist or doctor. That is developmental format of education. Cultural education is different, to teach people how to value humanity. Money is not for human. Human is for money, if I'm correct. Yes. So that is how we look at these things, and I'll be repeating this point. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and support this channel by liking it, subscribing, watching the videos, and clicking notification bell, and also leaving a comment below. We are slow, but we are not hopeless. We live in hope, so we looking forward to a time when our channel begin to move and grow into a bigger project, so that we begin to do more. Because we are carrying on with this program. So right now we're going to look at the United Kingdom as a parliament, as a parliamentary democracy operating under the Westminster system, otherwise known as the democratic parliamentary monarchy. The monarchy in it because the king is the head of state of the United Kingdom, and it is also parliamentary because we have a parliament. It is democratic because we practice democracy. The parliament of the United Kingdom is sovereign. I spoke just now about sovereignty. That is the political theory, the constitutional principle of sovereignty. In practice, more and more nation states are giving up their sovereignty in favor of globalization. And so institutions like foreign offices and foreign policy are now being strengthened. Defense policy, international international development policy and projects. These are now being strengthened to replace elements of national politics and institutions. Parliament in the future is going to be closed down in favor of global parliament. Most likely it's going to be within the European Union countries. We talked about the European Union, and we also explained the implication of sovereignty. In other countries, the constitution of the country is sovereign. In the UK, the parliament is sovereign. It is made up of the House of Commons and the House of Lords and the Crown. The Crown represents the King. So there are, in this context, the parliament actually have three different functions. In terms of location, in terms of estate, you've got the element in estate elements. You have the House of Commons, where the members of Parliament reside and operate, and you have the House of Lords, which is where the members of the Lords actually stay, and then the Crown. The Crown refers, as I said, refers to the royal family. And the king, the royal estate. political and constitutional estate. So the main business of parliament takes place in the two houses, but royal assent is required for a bill to become an act of parliament law. So an act of parliament is actually primary legislation, like I said in the other video. And for general elections, elections to the House of Commons, the UK is divided into 650 constituencies, each of which is represented by a member of parliament, MP. MPs hold office for up to 5 years and are always up for re-election in general elections. The Conservative Party, the Labour Party, and the Scottish National Party are respectively the current first, second, and third parties by number of MPs in the House of Commons. These are the main political parties in the United Kingdom. They actually work in Westminster, where parliaments are. Let us look at administrative division, countries of the United Kingdom, and administrative geography of the United Kingdom. So we have administratively, we have England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. These are the 4 units of administration which form the United Kingdom. The 4 countries of the United Kingdom, the geographical division of the United Kingdom into countries or shires began in England and Scotland in the early Middle Ages and was completed throughout Great Britain and Ireland by the early modern period. Administrative arrangements were developed separately in each country of the United Kingdom, with origin that often predated the formation of the United Kingdom. Modern local government by election council, partly based on the ancient counties, was established by separate acts of parliament in England and Wales in 1888, Scotland in 1889, and in Ireland in 1898, meaning there is no consistent system of administrative or geographical demarcation across the UK. Until the 19th century, there was little change to those arrangements, but there has since been a constant evolution of the role and function. Local government in England is complex, with the distribution of functions varying according to local arrangements. The upper tiers subdivision of England are the 9 regions now used primarily for statistical purposes. One of the regions, Greater London, has had a directly elected assembly and mayor since 2000. The mayor of London is actually Sadiq Khan, who is now controversially responsible for something called ULEZ. It's a form of taxation for managing pollution, following popular support for proposal in the 1998 referendum. That was how it was created, the Mayorage of London. It was intended that other regions would also be given their own elected regional assemblies, but the proposed assembly in the Northeast region was rejected by a referendum in 2004. And since 2011, 10 combined authorities have been established in England. 8 of these are elected mayors, election for which took place in May 2017. Below the regional tier, some parts of England have county council and district council, and others have unitary authorities, while London consists of 32 London boroughs and the City of London. The councillors are elected by the first past the post system in single-member wards or by multi-member plurality system in multi-member wards. These are different systems in different areas of an electoral system. The population of England was 56.5 million in the 2021 census. Local government in Scotland is divided into 32 council areas with a wide variation in size and population. the city of Glasgow, in Edinburgh, Aberdeen, and Dundee are separate council areas, as in the Highland Council, which includes a third of Scotland's area, but only just over 200,000 people. Local councils are made up of elected councillors, of whom there are 1,223. They are paid a part-time salary. Elections are conducted by a single transferable vote in multi-member wards that elect either 3 or more councillors. Each council elects a provost or convener to chair meetings of the council and to act as a figurehead for the area. The estimated population of Scotland in 2021 was 5.5 million. The local government in Wales consists of 22 unitary authorities, each led by a leader and cabinet elected by the council itself. These include the cities of Cardiff, Swansea, and Newport, which are unitary authorities in their own right. Elections are held every 4 years under the first past the poll system. The population of Wales was 3.1 million in the 2021 census. This information is being repeatable. I will watch the other videos in conjunction with these. I have actually given a more pronounced illustration and their significance of this information. So the local government in Northern Ireland since 1973 has been organized into 26 districts, since each elected a single transferable vote. Their powers are limited to services such as waste collection, dog control, and maintaining parks and cemeteries. These are actually diminished authority and power in Northern Ireland, and we can actually talk about that perhaps in one day. In 2008, the executive agreement on proposal to create 11 new councils and replace the present system. The population of Northern Ireland was 1.9 million in the 2021 census. We're looking at foreign relations foreign relations of the United Kingdom. The UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is also a ceremonial head of government, and whenever his position is actually executive but also ceremonial, he meets with heads of state of the world, constitutionally but also demonstratively as well as politically. And he meets with head of state like President of the United States and President of the G20 in different summits. And in 2022, one of the summits he met with the President of America and G20 Paris Summit. So the UK is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, a member of NATO, AUKUS, the Commonwealth of Nations, the G7 Finance Ministers, the G7 Forum, the G20, the OECD, the WTO, the Council of Europe, and the OSCE. These are international institutions and governance which the United Kingdom is actually a member. The UK is said to have a special relationship with the United States, close partnership with France. With France, the Entente Cordiale shares nuclear weapons technology with both countries. The Anglo-Portuguese alliance is considered to be the oldest binding military alliance in the world. The United Kingdom is also closely linked with the Republic of Ireland. The two countries share a common travel area and cooperate through the British-Irish Intergovernmental Conference and the British-Irish Council. The British global presence and influence is further amplified through its trading relations, foreign investment, official development assistance, and military engagement. Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, all of which are former colonies of the British Empire, which King Charles as their head of state, King Charles as the head of state, most favorably viewed countries in the world by the British people. Now, we talk about Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. These were former British Empire, but technically, I don't know the difference between these countries and the rest of the former British Empire, which incidentally are said to be members of the Commonwealth. So that is something we can keep in mind, because we are looking at Britain, and we're also being sensitive with this material to try and identify some inequalities or actually downright injustice. Remember, we are going through this material in the back of our minds. We're talking about the cost of living, which is actually produced by the inequalities in the country, the injustices produced in our country by deliberate policy. The policy we say the public sector is bad and the private sector is good, and the government is now pouring billions, perhaps also trillions of public money to private companies who actually waste it. They waste it in the sense that they use it to build their capital. Capital is a form of wealth. So they use public money to enrich themselves and also to build infrastructures, which is also a form of wealth. And the revenue component of public money or public sector, public investment is neglected, such that if you now go to the hospital, because hospital is being privatized as well, and although they are still using public government, every time you ask the government will give you statistic figures of how much money they are spending on public sector, on public services. But this money is going to the poorest, who are actually the private companies. It doesn't come to provide public services, because in essence the reason why there is the cost of living, because there is a failure of the public service. There is no public service because there is a failure in the public sector in terms of employment, in terms of low pay, in terms of no pay. In sometimes employees have to really beg employers, because the government no longer supervise employment issues. They no longer supervise employees. Most of them are private companies, and private companies are not allowed in this country, in Britain, to be regulated. And therefore, that is also the idea of freedom, which is actually the problem, because they are supposed to provide public services, employment. Employment is a public sector concept. It is a welfare issue, and if people are not paid well, then it produces the problem of the cost of living. And I've been saying this over and again. People need to understand this so that they can actually speak to their MPs, members of parliament, who are there to represent them. Because the problem with the member of parliament, they use public offices. Public offices cannot operate in Britain because the funding is not there. The agenda is to shut the public sector down, which is a contradiction in terms, because the member of parliament cannot work to represent the public if there is no public money to run their offices. You may see the public offices are there, or tax offices are there, all the other, the job centers are there, and all the other schools are there, hospitals are there, but they don't work. Because when you phone the hospital to book an appointment, you don't get it, because you don't get it. You wait on the phone for over 1 hour, and when somebody answers who is not a doctor, somebody who is probably an admin, you ask for the doctor, they say, okay, the doctor, there is no doctor appointment available now. And can you book an appointment for me with the doctor? No, we cannot. We don't pre-book appointments. So call us tomorrow. Theoretically, you're going to call again, you're sick. And you can't call an ambulance because they won't come. The ambulance, when you call them, most likely they're going to ask you to call a taxi. And if you say you don't have money, then they will say they also don't have money. They use public money. They are not a taxi, so you are not a priority. And you are not a priority because you are not a priority. If somebody calls an ambulance because they want an emergency service, they don't get it. If you go to the hospital in an accident and emergency, if a friend drops you to the hospital, you can wait at an accident and emergency for 2 days without getting any medical attention. Now, if you are sick and the doctor is not seeing you, because there are no doctors. The doctors now available actually for private patients, which are actually doctors for the super rich, people who are multimillionaires or multimillionaires. Because in practice, even if you are paid well, you are middle class earner. Sooner or later, the cost of health care is going to be such that nobody is going to afford it, and the rest of the service is going to close down. And there is going to be a situation where people can no longer get treated. And some people are going to start dying in the hospital because of negligence. Because you can be admitted with sickness, or you can have a medical situation which needs medical attention, but you see, there are no resources. You wait for an operation, for an appointment for months. By the time you go to the hospital, even for testing, maybe too little, too late. And this is all happening because the government has refused to support the public sector. It has refused by closing down the public sector and selling off the public sector to private companies who do not actually deliver because they don't have money. And that is the situation. It's the same with housing. You live in the UK, and I'm talking about the United Kingdom. There's no housing, and you go with homelessness problem. The local authorities, the council, we call them councils, are going to tell you there are no housing. They are not going to tell you that, but they say you are not a priority. You are not homeless. And how they decide that is based on their policy. Their policy has changed. They have redefined needs, housing needs. And they have redefined it to exclude those who used to have needs. People who cannot afford to buy houses used to have needs, technically. Now, the fact that you cannot afford to buy a house, the fact that you cannot afford to rent even a house in the market is not necessarily to say you're homeless. The idea of homelessness has changed, and that is actually the deliberate policy of the government to change the way they define homelessness. That should be changed if the government is to help people, because you see, homelessness is part of the cost of living crisis. We normally remember food and energy as being the factor of the cost of living. That's what help the government is trying to give. But you see, you ask yourself, when you see the energy cap, the energy cap policy, why is the government set the energy cap policy in such a way as to make energy extremely expensive, extremely unaffordable? And the answer to that is because the government is no longer in charge of supplying energy. And if you tell the people that the government is no longer supplying energy to people, because they are sold of the energy company. The only way to actually provide affordable housing, affordable energy, affordable water in this country is to nationalize the public utility, the public resources, food, they should give grants to people who grow food. Grant so that there should be a quota of amount of food people are actually given in supermarkets. And supermarkets, in my opinion, should provide free food for people who work for a living. Everybody should have access, actually, should have a card to buy food. If they want to control the way and the amount of money being bought, food being bought, so be it. Because people are also buying food to waste it. But quality food can be produced in this country and given for free. Because there is money, there is wealth, there is technology, and that is something we are supposed to think about when we are looking at the cost of living crisis. And that is the reason I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cost of living crisis because it's so important. It affects everybody. It affects the majority of the British people. And as I speak about the British people, I will constantly be reminding you why I'm doing this. I'm talking about the cost of living crisis because the cost of living crisis involves so many different issues. It's a crisis, and every crisis can only be addressed by the public sector, by the government managing the public sector and the public services. We are looking at the devolved governments in the United Kingdom, and we are going also to look at recent leaders of devolved administrations in Northern Ireland, the executive, Northern Ireland executive, Scottish government, and Welsh government. And the Scottish Parliament building is in Holyrood area of Edinburgh. And if you have been to Scotland, leave a comment below. And I've never been to Scotland. I understand Scotland is very beautiful. And obviously subscribe to my channel. Remember to do that to support this channel. And also share with family and friends. And leave a comment below. Click like, click notification bell. Let us look at Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, which each have their own government or executives led by a first minister, or in the case of Northern Ireland, a dichoal first minister and a deputy first minister, and a devolved unicameral legislature. Unicameral, which means there are different sections of the legislature. Legislature is a form of parliament where they make legislation. Legislation is a form of law, and laws also giving rise to policies, public policy on public economy and private economy. England, which has 84% of the population, has no devolved executive or legislature, and is administered and legislated for directly by the UK's government and parliament on all issues. That is happening in Westminster. So England has the lion's share of power. This situation has given rise to the so-called West Lothian question, which concerns the fact that members of parliament from Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland can vote sometimes decisively on matters that affect only England. The 2013 Mackay Commission on this recommended that laws affecting only England should need support from a majority of English members of Parliament. The Scottish Government and Parliament have wide-ranging powers over any matter that has not been specifically reserved to the UK Parliament, including education, healthcare, court law, and local government. Their power and economic issues is significantly constrained by an act of the UK Parliament passed in 2020. The Welsh government and the Senate Welsh Parliament, formerly the National Assembly, for Wales have more limited powers than those devolved to Scotland. The Senate is able to legislate on any matter not specifically resolved to the UK Parliament through acts of Senate Simulcamera. The British Irish Council comprises the UK government, the Irish government, and the governments of Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland Executive and Assembly are powers similar to those devolved in Scotland. The executive is led by the duchy, representing Unionists and Nationalist members of the Assembly. Devolution to Northern Ireland is contingent on participation by the Northern Ireland administration in the North-South Ministerial Council, where the Northern Ireland Executive cooperates and develops joint and shared policies with the Government of Ireland. British and Irish governments cooperate on non-devolved matters affecting Northern Ireland through the British-Irish Intergovernmental Conference, which assumes the responsibilities of the Northern Ireland administration in the event of land cooperation. The UK does not have a codified constitution, and constitution matters are not among the powers devolved to Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland. Then we talk about the codification of the Constitution of the United Kingdom, which is not, it means not written. It's a doctrine of uncodified constitutionality. Under the doctrine of parliamentary sovereignty, the UK Parliament would, in theory, therefore abolish the Scottish Parliament, Senate, or Northern Ireland Assembly. Indeed, in 1972, the United Kingdom of Parliament unilaterally prorogued the Parliament of Northern Ireland, setting a precedent relevant to the contemporary devolved institutions. In practice, it would be politically difficult for the UK Parliament to abolish devolution to the Scottish Parliament and the Senate, given the political entrenchment created by referendum decisions. The political constraints placed upon the UK Parliament's power to interfere with devolution in Northern Ireland are even greater than in relation to Scotland and Wales, given that devolution in Northern Ireland rests upon an international agreement with the Government of Ireland. The UK Parliament restricts the free devolved Parliament's legislative competence in economic areas through the Act passed in 2020. Looking at the dependency, British Overseas Territories, Crown Dependency, British Islands, and list of leaders of British dependency. The United Kingdom, the 14th British, the United Kingdom, the 14 overseas territories, and the 3 crowns dependencies from one undivided realm. All part of the realm under the sovereignty of the British Crown, but the territories and dependency are not part of the UK. This is distinct from the status of Commonwealth realms, who have separate monarchies but share the same monarch. The 14 British overseas territories are remnants of the British Empire, Aquila, Bermuda, the British Antarctic Territory, the British Indian Ocean Territory, the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, the Falklands Islands, Gibraltar, Montserrat, St. Helena, Ascension, and Tristan, the Suna, the Turks, and the Caicos Island, the Pitcairn Island, South Georgia, and South Sandwich Island, the Akrotiri and the Kelaya on the island of Cyprus. So there are 14 different residue of what was happening from the British colonialism. So the British claims in Antarctica have limited international recognition. Collective Britain's overseas territories encompass an approximate land area of 480,000 square nautical miles, 640,000 square miles, 1.6 million square kilometers, with a total population of approximately 250,000. The overseas territories also give the UK the world's fifth largest exclusive economic zone at 6.80586 million million square kilometers, and 651 square million square miles. In 1991, UK government white paper stated that the overseas territories are British for as long as they wish to remain British. Britain has willingly granted independence where it has been requested, and we will continue to do so where this is an option. Self-determination is also enshrined in the constitution of several overseas territories, and three have specifically voted to remain under the British sovereignty: Bermuda in 1995, Gibraltar in 2002, the Falklands Islands in 2013. The Crown dependencies are possession of the Crown as opposed to the territories of the UK. They comprise three independently administered jurisdictions: the bailiwicks of Jersey and Guernsey in the English Channel, and Isle of Man in Irish Sea. The mutual agreements: the British government manages the island's foreign affairs and defence, and the UK Parliament has the authority to legislate on their behalf. Internationally, they are regarded as territory for which the United Kingdom is responsible. The power to pass legislation affecting the islands ultimately rests with their own respective legislative assembly, with the rest of the Crown Privy Council, or in the case of the Isle of Man, in certain circumstances, the Lieutenant Governor. Since 2005, each Crown dependency had the Chief Minister as its head of government. Location of UK dependency: Crown dependency alphabetized overseas territory number of Isle of Man, B. Guernsey, C. Jersey, 1 United Kingdom, 2 Gibraltar, 3 Akrotiri and the Kelaya, 6 British Virgin Islands, 7 Aquila, 8 Cayman Islands, 7 Montserrat, and 10 Pitcairn Islands, 11 St. Helena, Ascensions, and Tristan da Cunha, and number 12 British Indian Ocean Territory, 13 Falkland Island, 14 South Georgia and South Sandwich Island, 15 British Antarctic Territory. Let us look at the law and criminal justice. Main article here: the law of the United Kingdom, the Royal Court of Justice, which houses the High Court and the Court of Appeal of England and Wales. The Supreme Court is the final court of appeal for England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and civil cases in Scotland. The High Court of Judiciary, Edinburgh, the Supreme Criminal Court, Scotland. The United Kingdom does not have a single legal system, as Article 19 of the 1706 Treaty of Union provided for the continuation of Scotland's separate legal system. So in other words, the English legal system consists applies in England and Wales, and Northern Ireland and Scotland have separate laws, but they are quite similar in practice. They differ in significant specificities, but in terms of broad outlook, if you understand English law, so you understand in practice, actually, English law includes the law of the United Kingdom, but in practice, in specific administration of law, England and Wales are quite similar or the same. Northern Ireland are significantly different. There are laws which apply in England, which does not, in Wales, which doesn't apply in Northern Ireland and Scotland. Today, the UK has three distinct systems of law: English law, Northern Ireland law, and Scottish law. Like I said, the new Supreme Court of the United Kingdom came into being in October 2009 to replace the Appellate Committee of the House of Lords. So in the past, the House of Lords used to function as the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court of Appeal, with the Lord Chancellor being a law officer. Today, the Lord Chancellor's role is actually almost exclusively political. Attorney General and people like that, these roles are now political. So there is now a Supreme Court judge who actually presides over the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court of Appeal. The Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, including the same members as the Supreme Court, is the highest court of appeal for several independent Commonwealth countries, the British Overseas Territory and the Crown Dependency. Both English law, which applies in England and Wales and Northern Ireland law, are based on common law principles. The essence of common law is that, subject to statute, law is devolved by judges in courts, applying each statute, precedent, and common sense to the facts before them to give explanatory judgments of the relevant legal principles which are reported and binding in future similar cases, as is called the stare decisis. The courts of England and Wales are headed by the senior courts of England and Wales, consisting of the Court of Appeal, the High Court of Justice, and the civil cases, and the Crown Court for criminal cases. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land for criminal and civil appeal cases in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and any decision it makes is binding on every other court in the same jurisdiction, often having a persuasive effect in other jurisdictions. Scots law is a hybrid system based on common law and civil law principles. The chief court of the Court of Session for civil cases, and the High Court of Justiciary for criminal cases. The Supreme Court of the United Kingdom serves as the highest court of appeal for civil cases under Scots law. Sheriff courts deal with most civil and criminal cases, including conducting criminal trials with a jury known as Sheriff's Solemn Court, or with a sheriff or a no jury known as Sheriff's Summary Court. The Scots legal system is unique in having three possible verdicts for a criminal trial: guilty, not guilty, and not proven. These are actually standards of proof in law. Not guilty and not proven result in an acquittal. So the standard of proof being beyond reasonable doubt. Crime in England and Wales increased in the period between 1980 and 1985 though since that peak there has been an overall fall of 66% in reported crime from 1995 and 2020. 2019, according to crime statistics. The decline in the public sector could affect the reporting of crime and also the accurate recording of crime, which happens because the police and also the other law enforcement officers or agencies are actually publicly funded, and funding is being cut. The public sector is being cut. I don't think anybody would be interested in buying the police or the military, although we have mercenaries, which I believe also operate as part of the British military support. Definitely it happens in America, and increasingly mercenaries are actually private armies. We spoke of the Wagner group in Russia. There is a trend now where the security infrastructure and also the entire personnel is being privatized, being sold off, and more importantly, these are now being replaced by machines, including the rise, the development in artificial intelligence, lie detector, and all these other methods of investigation, CCTV, and all these other equipment. These are now replacing policing, man policing, like human-based military and security infrastructures. And we have said these are changes which actually are going to impact on the cost of living crisis. You may not believe it, because if the police are unemployed, lawyers and judges are unemployed, they're going to face poverty. Unless the government can intervene to support their income conditions, this will feed into the cost of living. The cost of living could surprisingly it's going to be a part of life for eternity. I mean, unless the government actually changes direction and begin to improve on the way it delivers public service, the cost of living is just the start. It's going to go on, it's going to get worse and worse, because there are going to be more and more unemployment because of technology, and because of also the government shutting down the public sector. Remember, I said at the outset of this program that employment is the biggest element of the welfare system. The welfare system is at the heart of the public sector. Perhaps the primary purpose of the public sector is actually to provide welfare, including healthcare, housing, public housing. If you cannot buy a house in the UK outright, buying outright means you are not going to borrow money to buy your home. And 90% or even more, 95 or even more of the population of the United Kingdom are not able to buy houses outright, which means they are technically poor because they work for a living. They are not multi-millionaires. The only species of humans who can buy houses outright are actually multi-millionaires, and these are actually between 10 and 5%. The richer are actually becoming fewer and fewer, and they're becoming richer and richer. So, which means going forward, the majority of the population are going to be poorer and poorer. And this is actually a major social issue unless the government does something about it now. Technology is coming, but technology is not coming tomorrow. And when technology comes, people may not be prepared to use it for peace. Like I said in other videos, we talk about cultural economy, where people respect humanity and begin to treat humanity as a priority over anything else, including wealth. And we are living in an age now where we are culturally so uneducated that we now look at money first, and people maybe fourth or fifth or even 10th. And now we will be talking about different aspects of cultural economy, and we'll be also identifying the aspect of developmental economy as classified in this program. So let us look at this material, continue on this material. I'll talk about the prison population of England. Wales has increased to 86 86,000, giving England and Wales the highest rate of incarceration in Western Europe at 148 per 100,000 people. Britain is the ringleader of privatization. Privatization increases crime because the majority of people are going to be poor. They're going to be on drugs, they're going to be on the streets, and they're going to be insecurity because the police are not there. The prisons are not there. The prisoners who should be in prison are being released because there is no money. Prisons, nobody is going to. What? I mean, private companies are not made for managing the police and the prisons and even the military, because these are actually shutting down. So the murder rate in England and Wales has stabilized in the first half of the 2010s, with a murder rate around 1%, 100,000, which is half the peak in 2002 and a similar rate in the 1980s. These figures are actually questionable because of failure in the public sector. Even the statistics will be failing, will not be accurate because because of money. There's no money to finance anything public sector. Crime in Scotland fell slightly in 2014 and 2015 to its lowest level in 39 years and 59 years and 59 killings for a murder rate of 1.1 per 100,000. Scotland prisons are overcrowded, but prison population is shrinking. Let us look at the military. The problem with the policing, the law, and other factors in the public sector, including the military, is the same or similar. The problem has to do with the closure of the public sector. So we'll look at institutions such as the His Majesty Service Penal Service, and I don't know if it's still called Our Majesty, probably HMS, Prince of Wales, HMS Penal Service. If you comment below if you know if we still call it with Our Majesty or His Majesty. I think it's His Majesty. Royal Navy Destroyer, HMS Defender, Royal Air Force Eurofighter Typhoon jet. These are actually the elements of the British Armed Forces. So British Army Challenger 2 main battle tank. These are actually different elements of the armed forces. His Majesty's Armed Forces, so HMAF, consists of 3 professional service branches: the Royal Navy, the Royal Marines, forming the Naval Service, the British Army, and the Royal Air Force. The Armed Forces of the United Kingdom are managed by the Ministry of Defence and controlled by the Defence Council, chaired by the Secretary of State for Defence. The Commander-in-Chief is British monarch to whom members of the forces swear an oath of the allegiance. This is King Charles. So the Commander-in-Chief is the British monarch, who is actually King Charles III. The armed forces are charged with protecting the UK and its overseas territories, promoting the UK's global security interests, and supporting international peacekeeping efforts. They are active and regular participants in NATO, including the Allied Rapid Reaction Corps, the Firepower Defense Arrangements, RIMPAC, and other worldwide coalition operations. Overseas garrison and facilities are maintained in Ascension Island, Bahrain, Belize, Brunei, Canada, Cyprus, Diego Garcia, the Falkland Islands, Germany, Gibraltar, Kenya, Oman, Qatar, and Singapore. The British Armed Forces played a key role in establishing the British Empire as the dominant world power in the 18th, 19th, and the early 20th centuries. by emerging victorious from conflict, Britain has often been able to decisively influence world events. Since the end of the British Empire, the UK has remained a major military power. Following the end of the Cold War, defense policy has a stated assumption that the most demanding operation will be undertaken as part of the coalition. So this is part of the global economic outlook, according to sources which include the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, International Institute for Strategic Studies. The UK has either the fourth or the fifth highest military expenditure. Total defense spending amounts to 2% of the national GDP. Let us look at the economy of Britain, of the United Kingdom. We'll look at London, the largest urban economy in Europe in 2018. The United Kingdom uses the pound sterling, which is the world's oldest currency that is still in use and that has been in continuous use since its inception. It is the currency. It is currently the fourth most traded currency in the foreign exchange market, and is the world's fourth largest reserve currency after the United States dollar, euro, and yen. London is the world's capital of foreign exchange trading, with a global market share of 38.1% in 2022 of the daily 7.5 trillion global turnover. Since 1997, the Bank of England's monetary policy committee, headed by the governor of the Bank of England, has been responsible for setting interest rates at the level necessary to achieve the overall inflation target for the economy that is set by the Chancellor each year. Lloyd's of London is the world's largest insurance and reinsurance market and is located in London in the UK. The UK has a partially regulated market economy. Based on market exchange rates, the UK is totally the sixth largest economy in the world and the second largest in Europe. The HM Treasury, led by the Chancellor of the Exchequer, is responsible for developing and executing the government public finance policy and economic policy. The Bank of England is the UK's central bank and is responsible for issuing notes and coins in the national currency, the pound sterling. Banks in Scotland and Northern Ireland retain the right to issue their own notes, subject to retaining enough Bank of England notes in reserve to cover their issue. Pound sterling was the best performing currency in the first quarter of 2023, gaining 2.5 PC against the dollar ahead of all the other G10 economies. The service sector made up around 80% of the UK's GVA in 2021. That simply means that we are moving away from the manufacturing to the service sector. We talk about 80%. London is one of the world's largest financial centers, ranking second in the world in the Global Financial Center Index in 2022. I said elsewhere that London is now being prepared to take over from New York, from Wall Street, to be the world leader in global financing. We're going to be responsible for global finance as part of the globalization packaging. Edinburgh ranked 17th in the world and 6th in Western Europe in the Global Financial Centers Index in 2020. Tourism is very important to the British economy. London was named as Europe's most popular destination for 2022. The creative industries accounted for 5.9% of the UK's GVA in 2019, having grown by 43.6% in real terms from 2010. Creative industries contributed more than 111 billion to the UK's economy in 2018. Growth in the sector Eurofighter is more than 5 times larger than growth across the UK economy as a whole, as reported in 2018. WPP PLC, the world's biggest advertising company, is also based in the UK. So this is some of the features of the city of London, which is actually the seat of the financial empire. Well, the Bank of England is the central bank of the United Kingdom, and the model on which most modern central banks have been based. Following the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union, the functioning of the UK International Economic Market is enshrined by the United Kingdom Internal Market Act of 2020, which ensures trade in goods and services continues without international barriers across the 4 countries of the United Kingdom. The Industrial Revolution started in Britain with an initial concentration on the textile industry, followed by other heavy industries such as shipbuilding, coal mining, and steel making. British merchants, shippers, and bankers developed overwhelming advantage over those of other nations, allowing the UK to dominate international trade in the 19th century. We discussed this in the other videos, why Britain leads. Why Britain today is a leading country, how it led in the past, the advent of the British Industrial Revolution, in effect, revolutionized the global economic landscape. Shipbuilding continues. Between September 2021 and the end of 2022, the UK announced £4.34 billion in shipbuilding contracts to UK companies. The UK also produces luxury boats from Princess, Sunseeker, and Fairline. Manufacturing remains a significant part of the economy, but accounted for only 9.2% of national output in 2020. The automobile industry employs around 800,000 people with a turnover of in 2022 of £67 billion, generating £27 billion of exports, 10% of the UK's total export of goods. In 2022, the UK produced around 775,000 passenger vehicles and 1,600 commercial vehicles, including luxury cars such as Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and Range Rover. Most of the United Kingdom staple car manufacturing industry have been sold off, including Leyland, Dove. I think parts of Land Rover is also sold off, Jaguar and things like that. The UK is a major center for engine manufacturing. In 2021, around 1.6 million engines were produced. The UK motor sport industry employs more than 40,000 people, comprises around 4,300 companies, and has an annual turnover of around 10 billion UK pound. 7 of the 10 Formula 1 teams are based in the United Kingdom, with their technology being used in supercars and uppercars from McLaren, Aston Martin, and Lotus. The aerospace industry of the United Kingdom is second or third largest national aerospace industry in the world, depending upon the method of measurement, and has an annual turnover of around 30 billion UK sterling. BAE Systems plays a critical role in some of the world's biggest defense aerospace projects. In the UK, the company makes large sections of the Typhoon Eurofighter and assembles the aircraft for the Royal Air Force. The plane was based on British Aerospace EAP design, which first flew in 1986. EAB Systems is also a principal subcontractor on the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, the world's largest single defense project, for which it designed and manufactures a range of components. It also manufactures the Hawk, the world's most successful jet training aircraft. Airbus UK also produces defense aircraft, commercial aircraft, and is the UK's biggest space company. All European-produced wings on Airbus commercial aircraft are designed and built in the UK, with the majority built in North Wales, with local revenues of £4.4 billion. Rolls-Royce is an industrial technology company. It is the world's second largest aero engine manufacturer, sustainable power manufacturer, and defense contractor. Other major security and defense contractors include Babcock International, Kinetic, and Martin Baker, the world-leading manufacturer of ejection seats. Examples including McLaren. The McLaren F1 produced between 1989 and 1998, Chief Engineer Gordon Murray. The UK space industry was worth 17.5 billion in 2020-2021 and employed 84,800 people. Since 2020, the number of space organizations has grown on average nearly 21%, with 1,293 organizations reported in 2021. The UK Space Agency stated in 2023 that it is investing 1.6 billion in space-related projects. The agriculture industry is intensive, highly mechanized, and efficient by European standards, producing about 60% of food needs with less than 1.6% of the labor force, 535,000 workers. That is because of mechanization, and it's a good thing that we are now producing state-of-the-art agricultural technology, tractors and all that seed technology, and this is actually supposed to be a source of hope. Many in the world, including Britain, also in Africa, and in theory now, if there was to be a political will, there is not supposed to be any food poverty anywhere in the world, including energy poverty, water poverty, or any of those things, and including housing. Should I say, people should have homes all over the world because there's a lot of wealth lying idle. The government needs to really start thinking peacefully. If we begin to play excessive politics with human life, failing to understand the value of humanity, in so failing also to administer or even to master and administer cultural economy, as I put it, we are going to struggle with peace. The more power and more wealth we accumulate, the more violent society is going to be, the more likely we are going to face a lot of humanitarian disaster, not to mention even environment and natural disasters. And if conspiracy theories are anything to go by, then violence may weaponize food, energy, environment, nature, medicine. It can weaponize anything. So our culture needs to be tidied up, and we need to really start all over again on the cultural form. Culture simply means, valuing humanity and paying attention, setting humanity in everything we do as a matter of priority. And this is what I've been talking about. I will continue to talk about that. The agricultural industry is intensive, like I said, and on two sides of production is devoted to livestock, one side to arable crops. Around two sides of production is both livestock and then so on and so on. The UK retains a significant, though much reduced, fishing industry. It is also rich in a variety of natural resources, including coal, petroleum, natural gas, tin, limestone, iron ore, salt, clay, chalk, gypsum, lead, silica, and abundance of Arab land. So there should be enough food and energy. There should be enough clean water with technology. We should be even able to draw water from the ocean and desalinate the water from Israel is doing it now. I think, if I'm correct, Israel is desalinating seawater and trying to these technologies in Israel. It should be in America, in Europe, Africa, China. So if it's a political will, nobody should suffer any lack anywhere, including medical, and other basic necessities. So in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the UK government introduced coronavirus job retention scheme, which paid up to 8% of an employee's income to stay at home if they were not able to work from home and they were not an essential worker. So infrastructure involving wealth of the nation can be applied to solve most problems, particularly problems to do with income from work, from employment. Low pay is a chronic cancer of poverty in the United Kingdom and also around the globe. It's the same problem everywhere. So world governments should tidy up their social policy objectives and practices. Measures caused the UK economy to shrink by 20.4% between April and June compared to the first 3 months of that year. I said elsewhere through this videoing that COVID-19 is part of the cause of the cost of living crisis. The UK annual GDP output is estimated to have grown by 4.1% in 2020. The UK government debt was 2,436.7 billion at end of quarter 2, April June 2022. And the UK has the second best debt to GDP ratio out of the G7 countries. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Please subscribe to my channel and click like, notification bell, leave a comment below, share with family and friends, and let me know your thoughts. Thank you. Bye bye.